In today's episode of the podcast, I'll be catching you up on some of the crafty and creative things I've been up to since we last chatted almost 2 weeks ago, as well as introducing you to a brand new make-along coming here to the Wool Needles Hands community. So if you're in for some knitterly conversation, grab a cup of something refreshing or cozy and let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Tayler, and I will be your host. I'm coming to you from Henderson, Nevada, which is where I am from and where I live, with my husband Brandon, our two boys, Angus and Ronan, our dog Pepper, and our cat Oscar. It is a warm day. In fact, I think there's a chance before the weekend is over here in Henderson, the Las Vegas, Nevada area, that we might break 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And if that happens, it will be the earliest we have ever broken 100 degrees Fahrenheit in weather recording history. So anyway, I'm cracking into a Perrier today as opposed to my regular tea because it's a little bit more refreshing. And it fits the feel. As many of you know, I went out of town last weekend to visit a dear friend, my best friend who lives in California. We spent some really great quality time. We got some painting in, and I'm going to share that with you later. And I'm back with you guys today to share kind of where I am in my creative endeavors and to catch you up on a new make-along that I have plans for that I think you're going to enjoy. Okay, but before we get started, I do want to mention that there's new merch in the Wool Needles Hands merch shop. You can find that by heading over to woolneedleshands.com, shop and merch. All of the Wool Needles Hands merch that goes along with our community here is available there, including the new variegated tees. This is kind of a nod to the idea of variegated yarn and multicolored yarn. We talk a lot about that here, but not even that, just the fact that we're all variegated in our own little way, and I thought it would be fun to wear it loud and proud on a t-shirt. So that's what it says. It says variegated, and on the back you can see the Wool Needles Hands logo back there. It comes in a really nice array of colors. The t-shirts are fantastic. So definitely head over to woolneedleshands.com. You can find the shop link at the top of the page and shop through all the merch and check out the new variegated t-shirts. Anytime you make a purchase at the Wool Needles Hands merch shop, you are showing a great deal of support for the work that I'm doing here on the channel. It means so much to me. And I also want to encourage you, if you've purchased merch in the past and you have that merch and you're proud of it and you'd like to share that pride, take a photo of yourself using Wool Needles Hands merch, send it to me via email at woolneedleshands@gmail.com. I'm going to begin featuring folks wearing the Wool Needles Hands merch at the end of the podcast as a way to say thank you for that additional support, and also to let people see the fun merch that you guys are purchasing and how you're showing your love for your favorite podcast community. All right, I am ready to get started. I want to start this episode with my Capsule t-shirt. Now, it's behind me. Gladys is wearing it right back here, and I'm going to show it to you in just a moment. But I wanted to start with that because I want to get the jump on the dark colored stuff because I'm really feeling that I need an injection of color in my creativity right now. And even though I'm ambitiously working on completing that Capsule tee because I so want to be able to wear it this summer, I'm trying to find more colorful things to do with my creative time. And so I want to get the dark things out of the way first because I also know it's really hard to see that particular piece on the podcast. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into the Capsule tee, the little black t-shirt I'm working on and I'm designing right now. I'm going to bring Gladys forward so you can see it. Okay, so here we are. I know I don't need to keep this on Gladys, but I'm just going to do it. It just makes it a little bit easier to see. So this is the progress I have so far. So last time here, Gladys, let me grope you. So last time we visited, I had not separated for sleeves. And now you can see that I have sleeve separation and I have some of the body there. Kind of knit down here. Now, bear in mind, me and Gladys, or Gladys and I, we are not the same size. So this is going to look much larger on Gladys than it actually fits on myself. I'll pop in some photos here so you can kind of see some details. If you've been watching the podcast since I've been sharing this, you've seen some of the details of this particular design. It is going to be your classic little black t-shirt design. This is a really lovely 50-50 cotton merino blend yarn. I will share the yarn and all of that down in the description box of this video, but this is where I'm at with that. So this is the Capsule tee. I do have some body knit right here. I'm absolutely loving this project. I'm going to go ahead and set it right back over here. And I'm going to leave it on Gladys. I don't think I need it right now to share at the moment. So I'm just gonna leave it there and hop back up on my chair so we can chat. So as I mentioned on previous episodes of the podcast, and if you wanna go to the beginning of that saga back there with that particular garment, go back about two or three podcast episodes and I kind of share with you my thoughts on creating that basic staple wardrobe classic black t-shirt. That's my goal with that, is to just come up with a really nice classic staple design for a black t-shirt. I'm giving it a little bit of a retro vibe. The sleeves are going to sit a little longer. It's going to have kind of, I don't know if you remember those ringer tees. They were popular in like the 70s and 80s. They had the real thick kind of, you know, contrasting color straps around the sleeves and the collar. I have no reason to be carefree. That's kind of where I'm going with that t-shirt design. I'm really happy where it's sitting right now. I'm really excited about working on it. I keep my black t-shirt in this project bag. This is a gorgeous project bag by JesabelleB. She makes amazing leather goods and other felted items, and her work is amazing. So if you need a fantastic and luxe project bag, look no further. I will link this below. But inside of here is this other little project bag that I just picked up from Prickly Owl Company in her recent shop update. It's really ideal for a pair of socks or something small, but what I have going for Brandon's sweater is in here, believe it or not. Okay, so we talked a lot about Brandon's sweater. I talked a lot about it on, the podcast a few podcasts ago. I've shared with you pictures. We've gone back and forth about the neckline of the sweater and all of these things. And I expressed doubt, and then I expressed confidence. And then what you didn't see in between podcast episodes was just more doubt. And then I started to kind of let that doubt, almost like I allowed myself to embrace the doubt because I felt like it was rooted in logic. This is so unnecessarily convoluted. I finally admitted to myself that what I had with Brandon's neckline was not what I was aiming for, and that I needed to stop and rethink. I decided to kind of go back to my tried and true tutorial that I use for things like this from Fringe Association by Karen Templer, How to Improvise the Top-Down Sweater. I've talked about this. I'll link to it below. And I decided to take the applied neckline or the applied collar approach. So now I'm not going to go into detail about all of this yarn, what I'm using here. I'll link to it down below. Go back some podcast episodes and kind of catch yourself up on this whole saga because it's a good one. That's what I'm doing right now. This is all I have to show for it, but this is going to be an applied collar sweater. If you would like to know what it is that I'm doing here, and the kind of like the overall outline that I'm following, follow the link in the description of this video or over on the show links page on woolneedleshands.com. You remember that QR code I popped up earlier. That's going to take you to those links. Follow it to the Fringe Association article about how to improvise a top-down sweater. And what you read there is what I am doing here. And that's kind of the approach I'm working on because I think it's going to give me the shape that I want and ultimately the outcome that I want. And that is as much as I'm going to talk about this today, other than to just give you a quick look, because I just don't have a lot to speak of here, and that's as far as I'm going to go. So if you want to know a little bit more and catch up with where I'm at on this so far, it's part 1 and part 2 of how to improvise a top-down sweater. That's kind of where I'm at right now. So this is all I have so far. It is going to be the neckline of the sweater. I am creating a crescent shape with the fabric here with the neckline, and then at a certain point I will connect the two ends together to turn this into a circular piece. I hope that this isn't catching on the microphone making a funny noise, but that's where I'm at with this so far. I will have more to report on this at a later date. Please know that if you are participating in the Wool Needles Hands Break the Curse Knit Along, which is what this is my submission for that, you have time, because I need time. Maybe you need time. I know a lot of you are already finished and have submitted your finished objects, and that's great too. Maybe cast on another one, who knows? But that's where I am. I just don't want to go much more into this because there's not much to speak of here, but that is my status. I'm rethinking things. I'm listening to suggestions. I'm open-minded to what I need to do. and I'm making some positive changes, I think. So that's where we are. Okay, I have been painting, you guys. When the weather starts warming up, I get this itch to paint, to draw, to paint, to create things with color on paper, you know, to color with like markers and crayons, whatever. I just get that whole like inspiration. I don't know. And when I went to California to see my friend Lauren, that is what we did. I actually let her know ahead of time, like, hey, I want to paint when we're there, because she's into painting as well. And that was what we did. And it was so nice. It was relaxing. Her kids came and painted with us, and it was a lot of fun. We just had a really great time, and it just absolutely reignited my interest in painting. So many of you know that I enjoy painting with gouache. I also love painting with watercolor, but I think that gouache is my favorite. Creatively and artistically speaking, I think I have a very bold kind of style in how I, lay down color and how I imagine, color on a page. I do love really watery, loose watercolor art, but I think when I really sit down to paint something from my imagination, no matter what the source of inspiration is, I imagine bold, high contrast color. And a lot of that is very similar to like mid-century poster art, or if you can imagine like late Matisse, or even like, you can even go back to like Toulouse-Lautrec, who did a lot of those really well-known, you've most likely seen them, like Parisian poster art pieces. That's like really my vibe. I love that. I don't know. And gouache caters, it's just perfect for that. And so I've been getting into that a little bit more, and I make it sound like I've just been painting. There's paintings everywhere, hanging them around, and like I have a gallery. No, like I've done two things, okay? But it's really just reignited my passion. Now, I know this isn't knitting. I know that this isn't knitting, but just calm down, because I am multi-CRAFTual. I have lots of interests, and I'm going to tell you too, and this is a topic for a video coming, so just be prepared for this. But this is something that is important to keep in mind no matter what it is that you do as your primary craft. So whether you're a knitter or a crocheter or a weaver or whatever has brought you here, because this is, a knitting channel, a knitting related channel, being multi-CRAFTual, a Jack or Jane of all trades, if you will, or whatever, is really important to have as like an underpinning for your main, like your OG craft. Okay. So if you are a seamstress or a crocheter, dabbling in lots of other creative outlets, you don't necessarily have to become very well versed in any of those or some kind of a master. Just dabbling in lots of these different creative outlets is really important, and it does so much to amplify that main craft that you practice. And not only that, it's a fantastic way if you find like, oh, you're just kind of losing interest in those projects that you're working on that are part of your main craft, and stepping away from those for a minute to do something completely different but also creative. It really brings you back to that main craft in a much more energized and creative way. And I feel like that's kind of what happens to me around this time of year. The weather's warming up, knits and things like that just aren't as functional, the traditional things that you knit, socks and sweaters and hats and whatever. And so I feel like painting and doing things like visual arts like this, it really kind of reignites just my creativity in general, which means that eventually, I'll feel more motivated to work on my knits and all of that. I don't know if that makes any sense. I just know that embracing that whole, multi-CRAFTual, multi-artistical, that's not a word, but it ought to be. Getting into all of that, it's just good for your main craft. I just know that it feeds the soul, it feeds the spirit, it feeds your creativity, and that always gives itself back to your main squeeze, if you will. So I have been painting. I have a couple of pieces here that I worked on. This first one was inspired by a photo. So Lauren and I went on Pinterest, like you do, and we found an inspiration photo, and we were going to kind of paint something based on that inspiration photo. And I don't think I even still have, wait, maybe I do. Oh yes. Okay. So I do still have the photo. So I will pop the photo up that I used as like inspiration for what I did here. Because I just really loved the poppies. I was in California. It's the California state flower. And I loved this. So that is the photo that I will pop up now. And that's what I used as inspiration. I looked at it for a little while. I loved the contrasting background. I loved the white vase, whatever. I just kind of loved the vibe. But then eventually I just let my phone finally fade to black, and I didn't, light it back up again to see the picture. And I just went off on my own thing, if you will. And this is my piece. This is what I did. And I think it's so pretty. I was really kind of going off in a wacky direction with the colors of my flowers. I wasn't so sure, but then as I started blending colors together and adding different strokes and all of this, I just felt like it came together in a really natural, funky way. There's parts of this that, I don't love, but I don't even care because the overall piece is really invigorating and vibrant, and I love it. I really love it. So this is what we did, or what I did when we painted together. My favorite flower is this one because it stands out. It's real bright, but it helps to kind of accentuate all the others. So that is the first thing that I did. Now, the second piece that I did, I actually started, I want to say like 2 weeks ago when both of my boys were home and we had a little like drawing painting session. They painted and I sketched the outline for this piece. And then when we were in California, I brought my gouaches out and I painted it, and I love it. I can't even tell you. So, and again, like that high contrast, real bold, like poster art thing, you can definitely see it coming through in this. So here she be. Isn't she cool? And yeah, that's it. I mean, it's just a very simple color blocked background, but look at that really cool sleeve. Like just a really cool like puff sleeve situation happening. I'm trying not to it's going to focus on my face, but I love it. Her real hot, where is it? Over here, her red nail polish, that really pretty lemon yellow ball of yarn. I don't know. I'm digging it. So it was kind of fun. It was fun to do this. It was fun to kind of breathe life into the sketch that I did with my boys. I don't know. I'm really proud of this. So anyway, I feel like I need to go back though and even this section out because I don't know. I just need to even it out a little bit. I am loving it. It's giving me colorful vibes, spring and summer vibes. It's motivating me to just bring my paints back out and go to town. Over here in the space in front of me, I have all of my paints. I have my watercolor and my gouache, and then I have oil pastels. You guys, I've got it all. Okay, like we could really dive into that rabbit hole. But I had so much fun doing this. This was great. It was, I don't know, enlivening. If you have not tried your hand at painting with gouache, you need to give it a try. It doesn't matter how much of an artist you are. It doesn't matter if all you can do is stick figures. It doesn't matter. Just get some gouache. It doesn't have to be fancy gouache or anything like that. Get like a tablet of cheap watercolor paper and just give it a shot. You can thank me later. It is such a wonderful experience. The creamy colors, you guys, I love it. So that is something I've been up to. And I have a feeling you'll be seeing more of this as, the months go by and the weather stays warm, because it's where I'm feeling the love right now. Okay, I want to move on to something that I've been talking a lot about over the course of the last several videos, and that is a make-along that I have had the inspiration to launch here on the channel that kind of embraces the whole idea of repurposing and reusing. I was thinking that I was going to launch this to coincide with Earth Day, but Earth Day has passed. So I'm kind of considering this like Earth Day adjacent, right? Because it just falls under that whole like concept of being, thoughtful, sustainable and all of that in your everyday life. And I'm kind of focusing this on being that way in your crafting. So let me announce for you the upcoming make-along coming to the Wool Needles Hands community. And I'm not calling that, so I was originally going to call this the Great Unravel or something to the effect of unraveling, because my original intention was for this to be a make-along where we crochet or knit market bags using repurposed yarn, meaning using yarn that we pulled or harvested from an old sweater. And so the whole unraveling thing was going to be a thing. But I had kind of a frustrating experience unraveling a couple of sweaters, and it caused me to think a little bit about that and whether or not that's always the best way to get, to acquire repurposed yarn, because it can be very frustrating. And so I wanted to change up the make along a little bit to not, exclude that, to include that, but also to include some other elements of like repurposing in the make along. So what we're going to be doing, and I'm calling this something old, something new make along. So it's going to be hashtag something old, something new MAL. And what I'm asking for folks to do, and I'm going to participate in this as well, is that you have to make something, whether it be knit, crochet, if you want to weave something, whatever it is that you're making has to be not a garment. So not, not a sweater, not a shirt, not a pair of pants, something that you wouldn't wear this on your body. And I also want to exclude hats and socks from this. So this is not something you would adorn your body with. It could be an accessory that you could use, but it's not going to be clothing. So I'm excluding clothing and things that you would wear on your body. This is going to be something functional that can serve a useful purpose in your day-to-day life, especially if it's something you can use all 4 seasons of the year. And it has to be created using yarn or material that is either repurposed from maybe old t-shirts. If you want to get into making t-shirt yarn, I will link to a really great tutorial for how to do that down in the description box. If you want to harvest yarn from a sweater at a thrift store or from a sweater in your closet, or if you want to pull yarn from your stash. The only thing I don't want you to do for this is to purchase yarn for this project. The yarn has to be harvested from like a thrifted or old sweater, or it has to be pulled from your stash. And each thing, each submission has to include one repurposed element. So for example, if you are repurposing yarn from an old sweater, that can be your repurposed element. If you're creating t-shirt yarn from old t-shirts, that can be your repurposed element. If you are adding some kind of like buttons or embellishments, and the embellishments that you're adding come from an old sweater or an old handbag or something, you're repurposing them from something else, that can be your repurposed item. Maybe it's the handle of an old purse and you're going to repurpose it in a new purse, whatever. You have to have an element of the piece that has been repurposed. It has to be relatively substantial, right? So, try to make it a significant portion of your project. So if you happen to be using all stash yarn for this project, meaning new yarn that you've just had in your stash for a while, that cannot be your repurposed element. You would have to add an additional repurposed element on top of that. However, if you are harvesting yarn from an old sweater, that can kind of fill double duty. So I hope that makes sense for you guys. So this is going to be something old, something new, MAL, hashtag. This knit along, make along is going to take place primarily on Instagram. I am not active on Ravelry. I am very active on Instagram. And bear in mind, if you don't have Instagram or social media outside of YouTube and you still want to participate, make alongs, works in progress, anything that you want to share with me can be sent to me via woolneedleshands@gmail.com, especially finished objects. That's how all of my make alongs and knit alongs work in terms of submissions. They need to be emailed to me. I pull from the hashtag on social media and any photos you might want to send me to share here on the podcast. But when it comes to pulling finished objects for, finalizing a make along, I pull them from my email. So that's where you're going to submit those items. In terms of prizes for this, I don't have anything in mind just yet. Don't do this one for the prize. Do this one for the challenge. Do this one for the fun, and do this one for the social camaraderie of it all. But that's kind of where we're at with that. So I haven't decided on a prize just yet. This is going to launch. Today is the 29th of April. So let's make this May 7th. So we will launch this knit along, this make along on May 7th. That will be the official launch. May 7th to June 7th. 1 month. Let's get it done. Don't choose something super overwhelming. It doesn't need to be a 1 month make along. So from May 7th to June 7th, and you submit everything. Everything has to be finished and submitted by June 8th. Okay, so that's where we are with that. So it is the hashtag something old, something new, MAL, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of where I'm at with that, I have here yarn that I have finally harvested. Well, I still have some more I need to go, but these are pieces from an old sweater that I picked up at the thrift store. I will pop a picture in of the sweater before I started unraveling it. But this is what I have left as I have been working to unravel it. This is a 100% cotton fiber like yarn. It's kind of a ribbon yarn. I'm going to let you get a little closer here to the fabric. So this is what I'm working with here. So it's 100% cotton. Actually, I take that back. There is a small percentage of nylon in this because there's a tiny little bit of like a glittery fiber running through here, and that's the nylon. But other than that, it is cotton, and it's really pretty. And I love the neutral color. I wanted this kind of neutral color for the project that I'm going to be working up with this yarn. This is what I have harvested so far. And the intention of this is to create another Eileen bag. So I made an Eileen bag, which is kind of like a market inspired tote several years ago. And I shared it with you a couple episodes back when I was talking about market bags. I want to make another one. That one needs some mending. It's been kind of worn down, but I'd like to make another one in this really nice neutral color. It's a fantastic knit market bag pattern. If you want something that's going to have a really nice sturdy arm strap, I absolutely love it. So that's what I'm going to be making with this. I believe I will be holding this single, but I may end up doubling it just to give it a little bit more of a beefy texture. So this is what the yarn looks like straight off of the sweater. And the reason it's in a hank like this is because as I was unwinding it from the sweater, I was winding it onto my Swift just to make it a little bit easier. But you can see it's very much like ramen noodles when it comes off of the sweater. But what I did, and you may have this problem as well if you decide to go this route, is I soaked the yarn with a little bit of mild soap and then I hung it out to dry, and this is what it looks like now. So you definitely will lose some of that tight twist if you soak it. So this one is right off of the sweater, and then the bottom skein down here is after I soaked it and hung it to dry. I kind of loosened it up a little bit. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. I just don't like knitting with kinked yarn like this. It just doesn't slide through your fingers as nicely, and this will make this a lot easier and just more enjoyable to work with. So that is my plan for my something old, something new make along submission. I plan on making the Eileen bag as far as I know. I don't know, that might change, but this is going to be the yarn that I use, harvested from a thrifted sweater. This is what's left. I'm hoping I have enough, and I'm pretty sure that I do. So this clocks in, let's weigh this. Now, when I weigh this, you got to give or take. Actually, you got to take a little bit because some of this is just not going to make the cut because things happen and some of it has to just get thrown in the trash. Not a lot, but there always is a little bit that you can't use. So I have here 132 grams here, and then what I've already harvested is 207. So this is 339 grams of yarn. I don't think this is a proper weight. Like, I can't really be too certain if this would work up. Okay, so the original sample of the Eileen bag is knit using a sport weight linen. This looks roughly to me like a sport weight, and they used 270 yards of that sport weight linen, which is 100 grams. Yeah, so they only used 100 grams, so I should be totally fine. So that is what I have of this yarn. This is the yarn I will be using for my repurposed project for something old, something new. Let me know in the comments if you're excited about this, questions you might have. Get involved. I would love to have you share in the camaraderie with this project. It's going to be a quick one. We only have a month. So like I said, choose your project accordingly so you give yourself some time. And I'm just going to tell you right now, if you need to put some other project on the back burner because you really want to participate in this, but you've got other things on the needles, just do it. Who cares, right? Just set it to the side. You got something else going on. You got to make along to get involved in. And then, when you're done, you're done. You can pick it back up again. I give you permission. But that's where I'm at with that. If you would like to repurpose yarn or harvest yarn for this project, I have a video, 2 in fact, where I share with you how to do this. This is a tutorial I produced 6 years ago, however, it still holds up. Follow this video. It gives you kind of a blow by blow and a step by step with really good visuals on how to unravel a sweater, how to break down a sweater in pieces, and then how to unravel the sweater. Watch this video. Follow this video, but please no, not all sweaters are going to work as easily as the sweater I show in that video. When I made that video, that was the 3rd sweater I had attempted unraveling. The first 2 did not unravel very well. And there is a big argument here for this not being the most sustainable way to harvest yarn. I have one sweater that I'm not using for this project that is sitting in a state of unraveling, but I'm so frustrated with it because it's just not unraveling the way that I was hoping. It's taking forever. It's absolutely infuriating sometimes. It's not the easiest thing to do. So please know that you may go to the thrift store and find one perfect sweater to unravel, and you may be able to bring it home and unravel it perfectly using my tutorial or any tutorial you find on YouTube. But chances of that happening very smoothly and easily with no hiccups they're not great chances. So maybe get yourself a backup sweater if the price is good. Don't throw anything away. Yarn can be harvested. It just may not happen as easily as you see in that tutorial. I got really lucky with that particular sweater and then the one that I unraveled to create my first Eileen bag. I absolutely encourage you to give it a try because it may work out really well for you. And I'm happy that I'm doing it for this project, but just know it is not super easy. It's not a walk in the park. There's complications, okay? Dig around, find some tutorials. I'll link my tutorials down below in the description box, but also look for others as well that might give you an additional insight or perspective. So if you are going to go that route, that's what I would recommend to you. I'm excited for this make along. I'm excited for the concept of just, creating something with that little added challenge of trying to find a way to add a repurposed element. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know some ideas that you might have. If you've done this before, share your experience down below. If you have tips for unraveling a sweater, whether you've seen my tutorial video or not, it doesn't matter. Just drop those tips down below in the comment section to provide people with something. So people know they can come back to this video and check the comment section and see if any new tips have popped up. But if you do have tips for how you can do that without, the frustration or whatever, please share them. I could use them as well. I'm not a professional at unraveling sweaters. I just know a process that works in a vacuum, I guess you could say. So just bear that in mind, but share your tips down below. I would love to hear them. I know other folks would love to read them. It always is very, very appreciated. All right, folks, there we are. I have enjoyed spending this time with you today. I hope that whatever it is that you're doing to fill your time creatively right now, that you're feeling fulfilled by it, you're not overwhelmed by it. That's very important to just embrace what feels right for you, whatever that may be. Being multi-CRAFTual is a beautiful thing, and I hope that if you are that person, I hope that you embrace it. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit here with me and listen to me gab all about these creative things with you. It always means a lot to have that time with you guys here. If you took value from this episode or enjoyed yourself at any point, please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe. Click the bell icon so you can be notified anytime I upload new content here on the channel, which is every Wednesday and every Sunday. And don't forget, if you would like to support the work that I'm doing here, head over to the Wool Needles Hands merch shop, pick yourself up a variegated t-shirt or any of the other conversation starters that we have over there. That support means more than you know. I thank you so much. Until we meet again for Wednesday's midweek ramble, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye.